Hello, friend. I have a message for you today. If you are somebody who has started something new in your life, you are at that beginner, early stages, learning the process, whether that being a new position at work, you've started a new business of your own, some new venture, whatever it is in your life, you are ready for things to pick up. You have started down the path and you're at this point where it's like, well, okay, I'm doing the thing, why am I not getting the results? But you are in fact getting the results, and this reading today is going to help us ground back down into our present moment so that we can navigate where we're at right now in order to move forward. Guiding our reading, we have Fairies of the Future. Fairies of the future, all relating to this direction we're looking forward. Maybe you have a fairy or two, they're looking into the past, into the present, into the future, but ultimately the focus being about looking forward, being ready, do I have what I need? Do I have the skills? Do I have the tools? You have all the things you need, so we are moving forward. You have birthed this new thing. But like I said, you are a bit restless at this time. We have the Knight of Wands. You are chomping at the bit. You are ready to go, right? You have this creative new idea. You have this creative new venture that you want, this inspiration. You are ready. You have this unsettled kind of energy in you. You're probably feeling very anxious because you have something absolutely, fantastic that you're creating. This Page of Pentacles, your cornucopia kind of energy, right? You know that you want this. You want this prosperity. You want this ability to, maintain yourself, this independence, the abundance. You want it. You're rearing to go. Now, the trick in this matter is to learn how to ride the waves, okay? We are in this Knight of Cups energy. So the Knight of Cups, while they're certainly very much a romantic individual, volatile in a certain sense of, you have like the ups and downs of life, and you may have certain challenges, when it comes to navigating the realities, navigating, like you get this idea, this inspiration, and you're way up on this high, this emotional intensity, and then you get, some little result, and it feels like not as big as the energy, anticlimactic, right? You have this energy. Now you're riding the wave, you're riding the emotions, and this energy, has you, so unsettled. You learn to go with the flow, and then you're kind of surprised, like, well, why is this all I'm getting? We have this reminder that you are the magician, right? You have the tools, and what you're doing, the managing your emotions, the managing your energy, this isn't necessarily the end result. The trick is to remember that you are actively using your tools to create your reality, right? If you go and work, you work a certain amount of hours, you get paid a certain amount of money, so on and so forth. Whatever you're building toward, it's, you are building. You are in the process of creation. Now, when we're in this magical energy, this process of creation, when we're kind of in this liminal space between, what is this image that I have in my mind versus what am I experiencing in reality, we get ourselves caught up in this moon energy, okay? With the energy of the moon, you might be traveling at night, and you've got a little bit of light. You've got the moon, you've got the stars guiding your way, but, things seem a little bit out of proportion. You got, the flowers seem larger, you're more animalistic, intuitions and instincts are more prominent. You are connected to this primordial energy, and sometimes it can be a little bit tricky to understand. So, going back with your tools, we come into this King of Swords. The King of Swords being the absolute, high focus of clarity, being able to draw that line in the sand, that understanding, like what are the realities, tempering your expectations. when you temper your expectations, you have this energy, that you're directing toward growing. You understand that things take a little bit of time to grow. So, you don't have this little seedling that's just this big and then you're expecting fruit, to come off this tree because it hasn't even grown into a full-size tree. You've got this little sapling, right? You were in this Empress energy, and you've watched the stages because you see how the things that were in your past, them falling away provides fuel, provides energy and nourishment for the new life that's growing within you. We have the Empress here. She's looking at this wheat, and when looking at this wheat, we're reminded about how death creates new life. You harvest the old wheat, and you keep some of the grains to replant, and then you use the rest, right? This sustaining, this process, you understand that there are ups and downs. And when you are able to come into this understanding that there are ups and downs, and you realize that, you're not just in this pregnant energy anymore, that there aren't just, potentials. You have created new grain because you've harvested the old. Well, that new grain, you're in this sun energy. You're just this little baby. Like I said, you can't expect a seedling to bear fruit, not right away, and that's okay. This is the time for you to just be free and joyous and explore. You have all these possibilities, all these things that you could be creating for yourself, and this is just the time to just be with it, right? The thing is, the Empress, even if we're not in this pregnant stage, even if you're at this point now where you have created, this new thing, this new joyous kind of state within yourself, you still have lessons to learn, right? So we come up to this Eight of Pentacles. You have the new thing, right? You take your practice, you do it every day. This is the, putting in the reps, the getting the practice, the exercise, utilizing the skills. In this story, we have this fairy. She, after, going through some difficulties, she met these mice. And, she's showing them in exchange, for the blessings that they've given her. She's showing them, how to use her basket weaving skills, how to create this basket. And they're getting ideas how they can apply to their nest. You have things in your life that are still here teaching you. You still have experiences in your day-to-day life that are here to, like, hey, nudge you in this direction. You need to do this thing, or you need to get better at X, Y, Z. You have the experiences that are here, the practice. You're putting in the repetition for your growth. You understand that you are in this growth stage, and that right now you have to put in a certain amount of energy, expecting that your results are going to come later. And this can be disheartening, right? We look at this, the Four of Cups here. You normally see you have an individual meditating. They've got, the 3 cups in front of them, and then there's the 1 cup being offered. And, maybe you're not seeing it. This disheartening energy, you have this connection, right? Whatever, this joy you were experiencing, that aha, that inspiration, that creativity, that you had when you were forming the thing in the womb, so to speak, when the energy was being born, when your new venture was being born, and then because you haven't gotten what you wanted yet, you've become discouraged, right? But here's the matter of it. Don't get discouraged, because you are coming into this, nine of Pentacles energy here. The self-made individual, self-made man or woman, but in this deck, this fairy, she's got her mouse friends, this nest they've created, this abundance they've collected. You have a community you're starting to connect with, a community that you are starting to form, people that you're relating to. You're bouncing ideas off of each other. Somebody may have said something that has given you some sort of inspiration, or maybe you've said things that have given others inspiration. The growth process, the growing together, ends up creating an even greater abundance and joy and prosperity than you would have had otherwise, right? So take the experiences, take the connections you have. It doesn't matter if it's, a quick 1 minute conversation you had with a stranger on the bus, or if, you felt this impulse, this inspiration to go out somewhere that you wouldn't go before. Whatever the case being, these experiences in your life, they are to bring you here. So you want to be able to kind of pay attention to that instead of looking at this as like another step. Look at it as like another piece of the thing you're building. And because you have this other piece, and as you're doing the work, another piece and another piece and another piece, you step back after a little while, you're going to see things growing even more, and you might surprise yourself. Okay, we were in this 7 of Swords energy. Maybe you're still a little bit in it, but the idea here is like this things working behind the scenes, right? And this kind of goes in 2 different directions. Maybe right now you've been watering certain things, certain energies. You've poured a lot into one particular thing, right? This blue rose, this very special rose that is different than all the other ones in the garden. This queen here, she's pouring her magic into it. But the thing is, the vines are starting to wrap around her. She's not noticing. The rest of the garden's overgrowing. So you've poured a lot of energy into what you're creating, and there are more things growing now as a result of that you don't see. Also, because there are things that are growing behind the scenes that you don't see, being that second point, there are things that happen that were outside of your control, or it appears to be outside of your control, right? You can do so much work to create the thing you want, like you could create your business, you could do your advertisements, so on and so forth. But it's still up to individuals after seeing your advertisements to come in and, to really kind of, interact with you, to buy your products, to, whatever your service, whatever you're offering, right? It's still up to the other individual. And sometimes, we get so intense, so focused, like, hey, I've done the work and it's not drawing in more people, so let me put more energy into it, let me pour more effort into it. And now you're creating more things that are happening behind the scenes that may or may not work to your benefit initially, but all ultimately are leading you toward this end goal, okay? But what happens is when you start to pay attention to how when you put energy into things, and you're creating, other experiences in your life that you didn't want, or you're allowing certain energies to grow within you, or to expand within you, or clear from your system, they have to have some sort of expression in the outer world, so you're kind of learning to slow down a little bit. We have the Queen of Pentacles, the self-care queen, right? She knows the proper amount of care to give to her garden. She knows, just how much is enough, rather than this more impulsive, like, pour everything into it because I've got this idea, this thing that I'm really focused. Just slow down, really nurture, and take the time to really give yourself what you need as you need it. Then this is going to be actually the key to your success. You want to get into this Knight of Pentacles energy, this one step at a time, the tortoise and the hare type of a situation. If you want to take these initial steps, one step at a time, they're going to get you to where you're going. And I understand, we feel impulsive, we feel this need to go, but patience is going to be the actual key to your success here. Okay? You can take this energy, this Knight of Wands, and you can come into this Queen of Wands energy with this, okay? You're directing your energies, you're bringing them back in and focusing them. Scattered energies, you're all over the place here, there, whatever, they're not going to help you as quickly to get to your goal. Imagine, you're taking a path and you go left, and you kind of fall down a bit, and you take a right, and, all this meandering, it might get you there eventually, but you've learned to direct your energy, right? The Queen of Wands, this magician of the court cards, the Witch of the Tarot, the magic that you have, you've learned to take this scattered energy, and focus it. Because if you can take this energy and focus it into the things that you are passionate about, pour the energy in without, this expectation that it's going to instantly happen right now, because growth takes time. You know that, the seed has to sprout. You just give the time, give the care. You'll get there. The magic here is in the growth, right? You pour the energy in, you pour the focus in. We come to this Seven of Pentacles. The new seeds have sprouted. They're growing tall, they're growing robust. Maybe you can get your first little harvest, that maybe you're connecting to people you hadn't connected to before, or you're starting to see, things coming together in a way that make it where your new venture is able to be successful. So we have this Seven of Pentacles energy, okay? Focus your energy instead of being scattered, instead of running off to go, wherever. When you're able to regulate your emotions and be realistic and take each step as it comes, that's when the growth happens. Okay. Now, you're probably kind of a guarded individual, right? And the thing is, you're being encouraged to kind of look at things from a different way, to let go. If you water your flowers, and you're waiting 10 minutes after you water them, and you're like, where's my flowers? Relax. You don't have to be so focused and intent on the thing you already watered. Just be with it. Just swing from the vines. You don't have to be in the suspension, and you have to treat the waiting time as if it's like the most terrible thing. When you have recess, what do? You play. You go have fun. You take a break. Just enjoy. And the thing is, when you have this practice, when you take this time to realize, when you're being defensive, when you're being on guard, you have a situation, that might be coming up in your Seven of Wands. You realize, like, I'm always on guard. I have the ability to handle my situations. But if you are constantly vigilant, watching, waiting, expecting, you have this tension, right? And this tension actually causes resistance in your manifestation. Maybe your manifestation still will come true, but there's more for it to work through, which could slow the process down. Don't give up your abilities, to defend yourself. Don't be, like, in a position to where, you can't handle your situations. In fact, you actually have the Emperor here. The Emperor energy is telling us that, like, you have the capacity, right? He's got his shield, but he's not holding it up. He's just sitting here, resting, relaxing. You know that you have created the reality, right? You've put in the focus, the energy, the thoughts, the emotions into the things. Well, what do when you get to the Emperor? You delegate, you release, you have confidence that the universe is going to handle the thing. You go and you order food, you have the confidence that the people know how to make your food, whether or not that actually happens. Point is, you have this trust is the greater, the truer strength that you have being in this Emperor energy. And you don't have to be rigid and controlling and forceful. You've created the thing, you've handed it over to others, and you let the universe take care of the rest. Okay? And you get into this Six of Pentacles. This is the the benefactor, the charity card. You'll let the universe give to you. Even if you feel that you've had losses, the universe, God, creation, has something available for you. But you have to learn to let go. Alright folks, if this reading has been useful for you, I would absolutely love it if you would go ahead and like this video. Leave a comment for me. Don't know what to comment, leave something maybe like for the algorithm, or drop me a sunflower emoji. Sunflowers are a spiritual guide of mine. If you're not subscribed already, go ahead and subscribe to my channel. Head in, check out my videos, find something that resonates with you. If you don't find something that resonates with you, head into the community section. I've got a tagged post. Got a question you would love to have answered in a tarot reading? Go ahead and drop me the question. We can protect any privacy that you need. We can change names, so on and so forth. Be sure, of course, obviously, to protect any of your personal information, because the video that I will create from your questions will be published publicly. But, with the honor and respect for your individual situation and protections there, of course. But this collective reading that we could create from your question can help to really kind of start building the community and, forming the connections, that we, have, where we can support each other, where my readings can speak to your individual situations, and your individual situations can kind of help direct you, grow, and give feedback with my channel. I will see you in the next one.